Hi, everyone. I am Maggie Polisano, co-founder of the self-directed IRA company, CamaPlan. CamaPlan allows you to truly self-direct your retirement plan into investments you understand and can control. CamaPlan, we believe in investing in what you know. CamaPlan also needs to legally disclose, and as we can go to the disclosure statement there, that it does not endorse, recommend any individual, organization, or speaker. The CamaPlan recommends that you get your own tax and legal professional involved before making any investment. Okay, so the fun stuff here. So today's self-directed IRA investment interview, we'll be discussing multifamily investing with Kaylee McMahon, otherwise known as the Apartment Queen. She is also the founder of the #1 woman-focused multifamily firm and the #1 Leading Ladies podcast. Kelly's going to provide us with a brief education on multifamily investing, going over the pros and cons, what's needed, how it should work to maximize your profits and minimize your risk. Kaylee, thank you so much for joining us today. I really think today's audience will love what you have to offer. Your background, your accomplishments, your energy, and your attention to detail speak for themselves and are very impressive. So if it's okay, I want to step in and talk to you about how this started for you. Did you wake up one morning and say, I want to be the apartment queen?
No, it was totally by accident. I feel like that doesn't happen that way, but at some point, of course, you had to make a final decision. This is 100% what I want to do. But really, real estate in general was something that I wasn't interested in. And I had without going into too much of a long story, I had a company that I founded, and I don't have a business degree, so there was a couple of scaling concepts that I didn't understand quite yet. It was a personal concierge service for rich people in Dallas, pretty much. And so I would get their household running on systems where, bills were paid on time, their vacations were scheduled, they had their cars serviced, if they had multiple properties, et cetera, et cetera. So that was something, though, that if you guys have ever looked at or read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and you look at the ESBI chart, I was not an employee, I was self-employed. So in the S quadrant at that point in time, but you get to a point where until you can scale, it's just you. If you don't make the money by yourself, it doesn't make itself. So I wanted to get to a B-type business, or a I, which is an investor, which basically used its own capital or its own systems to produce more capital. And a friend of mine talked me into getting my license and said, okay, well, you could take the capital from, selling 4 or 5 houses a year and put that into your other business to hire people, create systems, marketing, advertising, all the things you need. And I just thought that was genius. So the progression, though, from there, I always knew, I didn't know how to describe it, that investing was a thing, but I thought it was the stock market. So learning about getting into real estate as an agent, you don't know anything. You have to pick a niche and pick a mentor and kind of figure it out. So I was introduced to a group of people who had a free show that they put together where they interviewed people who did every kind of real estate investing there ever was. Mobile home parks, they do triple net leasing, they do note investing, they in a million things. And so that group showed me that there's this thing called multifamily. And when reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, I understood the concept of, okay, let's get 4 little greenhouses to get the big red hotel, but I didn't know how to do it. You know what I mean? So once you're involved in an industry, you start asking questions, finding people who've already done it, being mentored by them. And for me, apartments made total sense to do what I was doing at the time with a flip house, but on a larger scale. Plus there's extra tax advantages, economies of scale, and several other things that are superior about this business. But for me, what I wanted to do at the end of the day was to create independence specifically for women. I didn't know how I was going to do it. Once I got into real estate, I realized, okay, well, I have these properties that I'm leasing. I have the ability to let someone use it if it's vacant for a little bit and they are going through a bad relationship situation. They need a place to kind of get started again. That's happened to me before, and someone helped me there, or whatever it was. And I knew I wanted to do that on a larger scale, but just again, didn't know how. And then again, multifamily was just like, okay, well, that's how I'm going to do it. You know, I can add another zero. And on a very small scale to this day, I've been able to help some people that have had, you know, like I've had a couple of cancer patients in our properties where they're not in a great situation and we just need to work with them. I mean, with COVID, same thing. People need a, you know, a safe place to live, and a quality safe place. We're not slumlords. So we get to give our tenants safe, clean places to live, in addition, be able to affect their life if they get into, you know, because stuff happens, so we can help. But if you're not necessarily the decision maker or the principal, you can't do that. So this just made total sense to me.
I love hearing how the different angles of where people start and where they end up and how they arrive at what they're doing today. And it's really interesting how you went from on a property manager, is that safe to call it, what you originally were doing?
First thing I did was, in Texas, they require that if you're going to do apartment leasing, you actually have to have your real estate license. Some states like Colorado don't require that, but here you have to get a license. So we call it an apartment locator. So I worked on the opposite side. So with concessions and with bringing in clients to the apartments, that's how I started.
Right. And you had the thirst for knowledge. You went into understanding entity structures, what worked for tax advantages, how to produce more income off of the money you were making and get something more income producing.
Mailbox checks. Y'all got to see like this meme I have. If you're on Instagram, the apartment queen _ it's in my story right now. And this guy was like doing this dance on the way to his mailbox to go get mailbox checks on the first. It's the best, you know?
Yeah, that sounds cute. Interesting. So I want to arrive at what you're doing today. You've done a lot along the way. Tell me a little bit more about the Apartment Queen as your company, and what it is that you actually do now. I know you and about the teams that you have in place. I find that very impressive. And as you do different deals, you know, who you have behind you.
Right. So it's really cool to be able to do that scaling now. And for me, real estate is so cool because, you know, I've got a couple of other little side businesses that are going to kind of come out of this as we get bigger, involving more technology in our apartments and in real estate in general, possibly a supply warehouse, just vertically integrate some different things. But, you know, real estate's so cool because it's just the total, not easy, but it's the fastest vehicle when I'm looking at so many different things to be able to use as a vector to grow really fast. I mean, I see people become millionaires, you know, in 2-3 years if they really hit it hard and they do things right, you know. Not saying that's typical or anything like that, but I've seen it a lot, you know. Someone's really focused, it's surprising. So as we, you know, do more deals, we're able to take capital from those deals and add in more systems and people and things like that. So right now, I've got a deal under contract that we just went under contract, but I think we're going to take it down as a JV. It's kind of small. It's only like 2.5 million. But, you know, hopefully the next bigger deal, what I'd like, because the three of us will just talk and figure out what we're doing. And I'm the one, you know, doing all of the asset managing. But when you get to a bigger deal, like we did in Houston, you've got, you know, 8.6 million to raise. I think we had like around 80 something investors. I mean, that's like a lot. That's a lot of people to communicate with. That's a lot of people to get our documents spot on correct, you know, et cetera. So we have to have these systems like investor management systems where people can go in at their own leisure and look at documents. They can e-sign on their leisure. They can transfer funds. They can download their K-1s for tax documents. They can, they'll get their distributions automatically from the bank through this system and things like that. So that's really what I'm focused on, is just having these systems. They do cost money, but I've luckily been in contact with some people that have a lot of technical knowledge, and that's smart when you're a startup to have someone that really knows, you know, tech. But the key core people that we have to have, someone, so on our team right now, we have Carolina, she is a double master's in 2 different kinds of mathematics. I can't remember both, but she's super freaking smart. And so she really enjoys something deals. She calls it a game. So like it takes her 30 minutes to do something that takes me 4 hours. So you have to have people that, you know, have their strengths and they focus just solely on that. Then we had somebody in acquisitions, but I think she was getting frustrated because she didn't want like the team right now is a startup, you know, and so you have to really want to be part of these deals. And the people on our team are literally a part. They don't really work for me. How I like to structure it is everyone in these deals are partners where they have equity, they get part of the cash flow, they have ownership. We give them their fair share of the part of each deal, not just, you know, pay someone hourly. And I think that people that really want that, they don't just want, you know, an hourly check or something like that, also align a little bit better with, you know, how I want more individuals on this planet to operate, to say, oh, I can do this and I can own and I can have cash flow, et cetera. So underwriting
And
is
your team,
key.
I'm sorry, your teams change from deal to deal?
Yes, it does. So one big lesson that I've learned during the lockdown was that that's not necessarily the best thing to do. And so you have to have your key core people. So as far as, you know, your key core partners that are making the decisions, that you trust, that you can call when things are wrong and they're not going to crucify you for it. They understand that, you know, we're solutions focused, not problem focused, et cetera. So those core people, I've had the blessing, I guess, of having a true soulmate partnership where, I mean, I'm just like, you guys are not leaving my life ever. And then I've had a couple of partnerships where these people are awesome. They're just not as involved. You know, they have children in their own lives and a lot going on, you know, so I just am part of the team to support. So I've had to kind of get out of my own way on those deals and say, okay, I'm not the one that found the deal and I'm going to structure it and all that, but I can bring capital in. Because it's a good deal and I'm putting my own capital in too. So pretty much right now there's 2.5 core teams, depending on what market we have access to deals. And that's the other thing is I focus solely on my backyard, things that I can look at with my eyeballs and know exactly what's going on, or drive to it within a couple of hours, worst case, because Texas is huge. But if we do a deal in Phoenix like we've done, or Houston like we've done, or we're looking at some in Tampa, Florida, we have to have boots on the ground. So sometimes, yes, the deals are, yeah, each deal has to have some different
Yeah, that was one question I was going to get to, and I think the audience would love to hear about is your location of your investments. And I love that it's in your backyard. It's the demographics you understand, probably makes underwriting a lot easier. So what are the size of the deals? I think the investors would, you know, our audience would like to know that also. You know, I don't know if they vary or if you keep to a certain size of the apartments that you're investing in.
Yeah, ideally, I would prefer them to be 70 units plus, and that's something my sponsor's mentor, kind of like a key person we both go to, who is now retired and lives overseas, but has done this really well. That was one thing that he said over and over again, and he's right, because at that point, then you can have a full-time property manager, you can have a full-time maintenance person, and it's supported for in your numbers, your loan, your underwriting, things like that. It's not going to like start hurting your profits at that point. So I prefer that. However, you know, this deal I just went under contract on is 22 units. So it's quite a bit smaller, but it's in Fort Worth and it's in an area where it's full of doctors. It's surrounded by hospitals. It's a C-class deal in an A-class neighborhood. It's kind of a no-brainer, you know, and what we're going to focus on doing, especially for those deals, because what happens is those are cash cows and it's really hard to ignore them. The bigger deals make sense for economies of scale and ease of operations and things like that. But I can't overlook these deals that, you know, we're making way better returns than the other ones. And my new approach, we're working on this right now, is utilizing a company, and we're not under contract with them yet, but I'm kind of going through all my due diligence on them with their current users, but it's replacing a lot of the downtime. It's replacing a lot of the overtime, a lot of the extra pay, human error, a lot of things that just aren't necessary, you know, and when we're able to change the amount that we pay for property management, because it's automated, a lot of our reporting, there's going to be an owner's app where everyone can see where the financials are at any time. You don't need to wait on a monthly report. Like, we're trying to make this very user-friendly. What that ends up doing is decreasing a lot of the expense and really boosting the net operating income. And when you're looking at a property, you know, if you can increase the income and or decrease the expenses, then it's a try or fourfold increase in the value of the property. And that's what we're trying to do, is force appreciation as fast as possible. So it varies.
Yeah, and you're centralizing the data, right, and streamlining the process, and that's going to save money in any business, right?
Like check this out. There was a deal I was looking at, and we put in their systems where, long story short, I think it went from like a 7.5 million valuation, or no, it was the net operating income went from 735,000 ish dollars or ish a year income to $911,000. So long story short, at the I think 8 cap rate that was going to be at on sale, that was going to be a boost in 1 year of $2 million to the purchase price. Like bam, immediately, just changing one thing,
Wow.
So,
Yeah, no, I love that. I love the streamlining and making more money. I think everyone does, right?
we got to keep operations tight if we're going to outlast whatever's coming.
Well, it helps you to be more effective and focus on what you need to do, and that's the investments, right? You're out searching for the next
Getting
one.
deals. Yeah.
So on that, how many of these deals have you done? How many are in the works? And what have you found?
So total right now 6, and then the 7th one isn't closed, so I wouldn't consider it, one of our projects yet. But I mean, it is. So 7, we've got 2 that are as of yesterday for sale. We're just waiting on the photos to put them on the market. They've doubled in value in 13 months. So we definitely bought those right. And again, those were smaller deals, but
Well, let me back you up a little bit. So you have 6 deals currently active. Is that correct? No exit plans. Have you exited any of these deals?
So one is already bought and sold a couple of years ago. And then it was right as I started learning, I was working with someone directly on their property and was involved with everything. So that was only a small 18 unit in Dallas. And then the next 2 were 24 and 26 units right by each other. And those are for sale right now. Okay. And then we've got 4 more. And then this other one that's just now under contract as of a day ago.
Okay, awesome. Now, what have you found with this, the COVID market here? How has that affected? I always look for, people can say how bad something is, but look for the opportunity. What opportunity has this presented for you, in the COVID environment?
Well, it's interesting because on these smaller deals that I had in the beginning, everyone kind of has their their go-to criteria, and usually it's based on some gossip they got from somebody else. It has nothing to do with I talk to an economist on a regular basis and I know exactly what the market's done for the last 30 years. Here's how it will play out, etc. They don't seem to do that kind of research. It's my job. But these deals looked kind of risky from an outsider's perspective. But what ended up happening in COVID, because they were in a market outside of Dallas, was that we had no cases of COVID for anyone, like staff, anyone living there, anyone in town. There was I think a total of 15 cases in the entire county. So things that were shutting down here were staying open. We also had a bank loan on that property, and typically you want something non-recourse, but because this was not a government-backed loan, we could evict the entire time. The only things that they had restriction on as far as evictions were government-backed Fannie Freddie debt, and ours was bank debt, so we could continue to evict. So we had no problems with those 2 things the entire time. All I did to be a reasonable owner was said, okay, let's pull back because we need to focus on leasing now that we've flipped the units. We continued to renovate, we didn't stop. And because we want to keep our guys working, and also the more employees that we kept, we could apply for the Paycheck Protection Plan. So we actually hired more people. We just did the opposite of what everyone probably would be too scared to do. So that kept them happy, and they actually were decreasing all of our bids on everything that we originally were quoted on, which was great. We got those done. Then we focused on our online presence and brought in people to where we had a wait list. So anyway, it ended up being in those small ones, not really a big deal, to tell you the truth. And then in our bigger markets like Phoenix and Dallas, the only Phoenix, we had someone in the front office that had COVID. Basically, we had them leave, go into quarantine for 2 weeks, had everybody tested. Once they were better, they came back. And then we did remote leasing. So instead of the face-to-face leasing, we're doing Matterport tours. So that's actually cool because, to tell you the truth, the best way to bring in this technology company I'm mentioning, this is what they just are so good at. They're so good at bringing in people in a constant stream from online because they know how to work those Google ads, Facebook ad boosts, and all that stuff.
I love that. Again, that's streamlining, using time wisely. and not wasting your time.
So there's no reason, honestly, at the end of the day, really, for anyone to be at the freaking property. Like that front office could be 2 new units. That's going to give us what, 200K more in income a year? I don't know, depending on a lot of factors, you know? And so what we do with the auto leasing, I guess, in this situation is you have a unit that's always the show unit. And if there's 2 floor plans, 2, et cetera, but you just have it furnished, you have it looking nice, and the people basically verify their identity by their ID, a picture, facial recognition. There's cameras in the unit, there's cameras on the outside of the unit. They have to have all these special permissions to be able to get in, but I mean, they can do it 24/7. So whenever it's convenient for them, they don't need to wait. And then also you're not gonna get sick from anyone because you're not interacting with anybody. Yeah.
And I think like this level of detail and the streamlining that you've done is great. And I think it brings something else. You are focused on multifamily only, correct? You're not out there looking at all different types of real estate. You're focused, am I correct in saying that?
Yes, I do have some investments. I've got a long-term hold that's a renter kind of near me. And then I've got a couple of house notes that it's basically the same thing as a syndication, where my girlfriend has a note company and she buys the house or the underlying paper on it. And then we split it between all of us investors and, you know, invest 5 grand, 10 grand, very small amounts. And then we get like on this one I have, it's, or both of them are 8% return, you know, monthly. It's a very small amount, but whatever, it just goes into an account that's tax-free. Or it's a SIDRA. It's a Roth that was converted over to a self-directed IRA. So I do have a couple of other things that I've done, and I also invest in life insurance, but that's really just essentially
being. But your syndication, you're not focusing, which I think is really important when somebody's going to invest in someone, that they're not in multiple markets, because it's really, you've got a deep dive in the multifamily, and I think it's really important for somebody, you know, that's going to invest or looking to invest, that they have somebody that's fully entrenched in this market. And I think that that's great that, you know, you've got all that detail and process behind you.
It changes weekly. During COVID, I mean, I was on the phone with all my lenders every week because it kept changing. It still is. So you have to be in it.
Right. Got it. So tell me, what makes you passionate about this business, other than, you know, adding another zero to the dollar?
Yeah, so for me personally, what gets me out of bed every day is kind of what I've been able to really start doing, which is bringing more women into multifamily. It's a male-dominated industry, and so I've had to, and I still am continuing to do a lot of research on the psychology behind why that is, and understanding how, like, men are not against women and vice versa, but how to bring more women in and bring us together. You know, is it certain personality traits? Is it certain you know, values that we still hold from our past, is it whatever it is. But so I feel like it's my job or my mission to bring more women into multifamily. So, you know, how I've been able to do that, you know, last night at my birthday dinner, one of my partners, Carrie, she was there. And so she's going to be one of our JV partners on this deal. She sold a condo in Texas, and she's like, it's just sitting in my account. So let's do something with it that actually gets tax advantages, makes cash flow, and also appreciates at the same time. I'm like, well, here we go. So, and then also women that have had 1031 exchanges. There's a couple of attorneys that we use that structure things just so that they don't have to pay capital gains taxes. We want to make sure to structure it right. But anyway, we do. And then that person can take that equity that they've built up from single family, say they have a bunch of roofs and it's, oh my gosh, you know, foundation repair, roofing repair, HVAC repair on so many different things. Instead, let's just roll it into a larger investment that's a little bit less work. So that's kind of what I'm passionate about. And then for me, starting with single family, but then in, you know, multifamily as well, having that passive income, you know, seeing those mailbox checks, it's really given me a mental freedom to not feel like I have to depend on anybody who may have ulterior motives. I've dealt in my past, and I'm sure everybody has, with people that are narcissists and people that you have to, you know, you think you have to do certain things to be around, whatever. You can just be independent and make your own decisions, work on yourself.
It's great. I think it's like mental freedom. And it's, you know, you're speaking about the psychology of women and investing, and you're looking to make it a more common language among women, you know, finance, investing, it should be, and that goes hand in hand with the mental freedom. So I
Oh
think
my
that,
gosh. Yeah.
so I'm sure you've got a lot to talk about on that. So you're in this industry. Who are your competitors? Do you find a lot of women multifamily investors? Do you find yourself you don't have to compete against men, or you find yourself the majority of them are men?
Yeah, they're men.
They're
Straight up.
men.
I mean, like the only women that there's probably about 4 or 5 in the United States that I've met. There's 2 on the East Coast. There's 2 in Texas, 1 in Dallas, 1 in Houston. So 4 or 5, 6, something like that. A very small amount of women that are doing a large scale multifamily as the principal or one of the principals. And the thing is none of them are very out there about it. They're kind of almost shy, or they're part of a team. And I'm super loud and out there. And I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely a leader, and I definitely want more women to do this too. And I wouldn't look at it as competition. I think right now, because some of them have been in the business for a long, long time, and they've like slowly gained their way up the ladder of different guys that eventually respect them and say, oh, you're the same as everybody else. We're just going to do business. No big deal. Again, there's a lot of psychology behind that. But for me, I look at them and say, what I'd like to do, and I tell them this too, is I'd like to do a deal with you. So I've had conversations with the 2 ladies on the East Coast that are involved with Invest Her, Liz Faircloth and Anna Kelly. Again, like I said, there's not many of us, but they have now talked to me, and we've decided we're going to do a deal together. So we're searching for
I love
something.
it. That's great. So you don't view them as competitors. Let's build it together.
Yeah, and as long as people, we're the same, like we have the same value systems, we communicate respectfully with each other. That's very important. One of the big things when it comes to leadership is you usually have an autocratic leadership or a democratic leader, and usually males are autocratic leaders. I'm the boss, you go to me, you talk to me first, I'm the bottleneck, that kind of thing. And that just doesn't really work in business. I mean, it can for a bit, but the way that people feel valued and they stay for a long time is when they have input, and we're able to have whoever has the best ideas is the person that's going to move the needle forward, or whatever we're doing. So if the other ladies like to lead by being democratic, everybody sits at the table, all right, here's what's up, let's fix it, yeah, I'm definitely cool with doing a deal with them.
Now, Kaylee, I have to ask, did you play a sport growing up?
I played many, but I'm so ADD that I just would get bored. And the coaches, like in soccer, I like to talk to everybody. I like people. And so they'd make me run all the time. And I was like, this is so stupid. I don't like this.
Well, I think you picked up teamwork, from there. I think that's important, right? As you talk about working with other people and hiring people, smarter people in different areas, and making it work. I think that's part of what makes you so successful, right? I mean, that's what you have to, I know I always look at people that play sports, or they found, and there's individual sports also where you don't work as a team, but you obviously found teamwork to work somewhere along the line. So if it wasn't on the court or the field, where was it?
Well, I guess part of it was definitely sports. I've done like everything. I mean, from swimming to soccer and baseball. I did a lot of dance. So I did Irish dance for a long time. I competed internationally, and we also had a small group of us when I was like 12 to 14 that we danced at parades and weddings and all kinds of stuff. That was definitely, you show up on time, you put in, even drill team in high school, if you don't practice your part, if you don't nail it, like you're out for the week, and you don't complain about it. You just suck it up and figure it out for the next week, because it's your responsibility to be an equal team member or to contribute as a team member.
Well, and you also have to dance in rhythm with the other dancers, correct?
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's, in essence what you're working with other people. And so what is it that you think makes you so successful?
I honestly think that it's the fact that I have a bigger purpose. I think that whenever I'm looking at my actions every day, and I'm not the best at stopping at 5 o'clock and saying, what did I do today or yesterday? I might do it once every other week or whatever. Not, as often as I need to, but I try to evaluate, the words I'm saying and the people I'm networking with and the whatever I'm doing. Is that action leading me towards my goal of creating 1 billion female investors in 10 years, And so if I'm surrounding myself with big groups of men, I'm like, no, that's not going to work, or if so I always kind of try to check myself. And
I like that.
so
Yeah. Did you say million or billion?
with a B.
All right, that's great. So back to the investments that you're doing. Are you raising capital now for any investments?
Not officially. So like I mentioned, that Fort Worth deal, we're working on some of the legal paperwork. We've got a 1031 that was going to tick our tenants in common into our partnership, the newer partnership, and then someone else that would just be another essentially JV partner. That should take care of all the capital that we need. These deals, however, I have a long list I had to send one of the ladies about all the variable costs, because we don't really know at the end of the day what lender is going to be the best. And some of them, they all charge different fees, whatever, or we may have to go longer in due diligence and put more earnest money in, or there's so many things that can change. Or once we're in due diligence, which I'm waiting on being able to get my guys out there, we have an early access agreement. I might find a lot wrong with the plumbing or a lot wrong with, so a lot of things are variable. But as of right now, that is kind of spoken for, but you have to have a backup plan, then a contingency plan, then so it may turn out where I have to go back to that attorney and say, okay, say one partner dropped out because this is taking too long or it's too hard or whatever it is. Now we have to raise that 500K or that 700K or something. Then I would turn to them and say, let's turn this into a syndication. And then I would need to raise capital. But right as of this moment, we're not. But what we have to do also to be legal is before we're under contract. So technically the LOI has been accepted and signed, and we haven't started redlining the contract yet. So it's still in that safe zone, but we have to have a pre-existing relationship with the investors before they can invest in anything, the way that we usually do our offerings. So what we usually do is try to figure out, hey, can we have a phone call? Maybe if you're in Dallas, meet in person, or, we can do Zoom, whatever, and establish some kind of relationship. And also figure out if you're an accredited or sophisticated investor, because those are the types of investors who would qualify to be able to invest. So we have a really easy quiz that I've put together that, as of now, the accredited and sophisticated definition, it will answer that question and then go immediately to my database and then give you access to deals that are upcoming.
Okay.
So we always be ready.
Yeah. So let's just present a hypothetical. Say everything goes well. How long until, and then how long until you have that offering? Or do you want to understand and meet the people that are interested in the offering before it's available?
So if there was an offering, I can't answer that question exactly.
What's an average turnaround time from when you actually find a property under, have it reviewed by whoever your professionals are, and then how long does it take for it to go to offering on an average?
For it to go to offering, so typically we'll have they kind of fart around for 2 weeks doing the purchase and sale. Then we engage our attorneys 3 weeks. Then due diligence is variable between 30 and 45 days. Right now is normal, so it's like a month. Then also, depending on what happens in due diligence, we may need an extension, and or at closing, we may need an extension. So the offering technically happens when due diligence is done, because we want to make sure that our assumptions actually lined up with what we saw when we did our due diligence. So I would say 45 to 60 days, probably.
Okay. Okay. And to the investors in the audience, what would be the risk, and how would they invest? Would they be investing in a private placement? What would be the risk to the investor?
If we did have an offering, an official offering, it would be through a syndication or tenancy in common, depending on funds and raise amount and all that stuff. But there would be documents. So you would see a PPM or private placement memorandum and an operating agreement between the partners. And if we had a TIC or tenants in common, they would see what we call pre-engagement agreement. But long story short, just a couple different legal documents that are going to be full disclosure of the risks of the market itself, the partners, our experience, how much capital we're bringing to the table, who gets paid how capital calls work. I mean, like all the details of the risks of the investment. So of course, you know, I would just say it could be 100% risk if you have no idea what you're doing or reading and you're just signing on it. I actually won't allow those people, we can't, to invest because that's when things kind of go sideways. We won't take somebody's money if it's more than 10% of their net worth because sometimes stuff does go sideways and I don't want to be the person to ruin their life. So that's part of it. So that's why we also do that quiz to figure out if they're sophisticated or accredited. That usually means that they have enough knowledge to be able to vet the deals, the risks and rewards, and or they have had experience doing it as a syndication before. So I mean, there's a lot of risk, but it's reduced by your operations team. You know, if they have experience, if they have a business plan, if they've done this before, if it's a deal that meets the criteria for you in your market, in your return expectations, then that lowers the risk of, you know, you getting upset basically because your expectations are pretty clear and you have people that have performed before. And then the remaining part of it is really then the property manager, if there is a third party, their communication with the team. So if that team is experienced and they've used these people before, that makes up probably up to 70 to 80% of the deal success. And then their communication together is about 80%. I'd say honestly, the market is like 10% of the risk of a deal. When all this COVID stuff happened, it was just like, okay, immediately I'm going to start emailing everybody. We're increasing our reports instead of doing quarterly, we're doing monthly. I'm going to go out there more often. We're going to try to be proactive. And so there is, of course, risk to every deal, but you just kind of have to know the sponsorship and know the management to understand, you know, are they like watching a team and their performance right now throughout COVID is, I think, a really good example of what's going to happen. Like, do these people operate out of fear or do they operate out of being solution focused? Because, you know, for me, yeah, there's people living in these properties. There's always going to be a freaking problem. But do you want to dig in and figure out how we can proactively work with people and prevent issues, or are we victims and just let things happen to us, you know? So you can reduce your risk by knowing how your team does stuff and, you know, knowing your market you're investing in and having experience.
Right. And you're obviously a true believer in the company and you've had a pretty good track record here. So I think that's something else the investors could research. And of course, it's always, and as we say, it's invest in what you know. Anyone that's on this is getting an education or looking further probably into multifamily investing. And may want an investment to look at. So they're trying to figure out, is this a money-making deal? You know, what are the things? You just gave a few things to look at, and they have to weigh their risks. And it's real estate, and people need a place to live. And you know, if you location, as you mentioned, there's a lot of these places you're investing in are in great locations. So I think that you answered that question. Now, do you think these investments are a good idea for a self-directed IRA plan?
Well, good or bad, I'm not sure if I can answer that question, but I'll say from experience, it's been a nice way to have a lot of my investors, especially when I got started, be able to utilize funds that they had in a self-directed account, because from my understanding, they cannot invest in their own deal. They can't invest in families' deals, direct descendants benefit of themselves, if I'm saying that correctly. And so looking at other people's deals that are out there, multifamily is definitely one of the best options. You know, like I mentioned before, I've done it with like a note investment where that's passive. I've done it with some other things. But multifamily, you know, if you have an account that's built up quite a bit, It's something that, you know, we try to look for properties that will double your money, you know, and so versus 8%, that's like a huge difference. And then also you have these tax advantages. So, you know, as part of your education, which is huge, investing in these deals is having professionals around you that you don't mind paying for their advice. So having an attorney, a couple of my investors, when they invested in me the first time, they had their attorney look over everything and they had a handful of questions and it's no big deal to answer them. And once they felt like they had everything answered, they decided to invest, you know. And then now that we've gone through some stuff together, you know, they know me and they trust me, but it's important to have that advice. Plus, you know, your CPA, you know, there's certain CPAs that I use that like are very familiar with these deals and they know what to look for and, hey, be wary of this. They took away your rights to be able to appreciate this, or you don't have equity over here, or, you know, those people will really help you, especially when it comes time to get your tax documents, your K-1s and whatnot, depending on what kind of income you have, if you're active in real estate or if you're passive or if you work in a different industry, there's certain ways that you can offset or use passive losses to offset other income. I mean, so having those professionals is really key because like it says on all the documents you sign off on, it says, I understand the risks and rewards of this project. You know, basically I've been fully informed of all the things I need to know. And so if someone comes back to me and they're like, I didn't know this, it's kind of like, well, you know, a big part of this before you invest is you need to get educated. So I definitely right now do not run a mentorship program. I definitely don't. I mean, I make exceptions for partners that come in, you know, that are women, because that's my thing. But if we had a deal where there's 80 investors, no, I'm not running a mentorship program where they're paying a fee and I'm walking them through how we do everything. I'm just sending them checks, you know, and then if there's any issues or problems, reporting to them and saying, here's an issue we had, here's what we did about it. That's really how this relationship is. My job is to make people money.
Right. And as you said, you have a Roth IRA and you can recognize the tax advantage of that Roth IRA, especially if you're looking to double your money within an investment.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, exactly. And then
all you need to do is throw that up on a slide and you can see the tax savings there. But again, I think financial advisors, however, your financial planner, your tax professionals, you need to get them involved.
Yeah.
Before making an investment.
Yeah, especially if you want max benefits and less taxes, because I'm not a fan of taxes.
No, any way that we can keep more, you know, than less. So for people that are just listening, some people aren't on screen. I just want to give Kaylee's website is www.theapartmentqueen.com. Her Instagram is The Apartment Queen, and her number is 469-990-4627. I do this for people that are playing it back and listening to audio only, Kaylee. Yeah. So The Apartment Queen. So is there anything else you want to add to your deals as the Apartment Queen? Anything to follow up with that you would like the audience to know? We're running out of time here, and I want to thank you for your time and insight, but I also want to leave you with some closing comments.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of free resources that I have out there because, like I mentioned, getting educated is super key. So, you know, if you're interested, even if you're interested in actively investing in a deal, that obviously, well, that could be a partnership thing, but there's certain things like underwriting your market that you need to learn how to do. And we actually have a tab on our website that the underwriter that I have now, she put together like a video mini series on how to use her software that she developed. So that's on the website. We also have a checklist that you can learn how to look at the big chunks of a private placement memorandum, because it's a lot of information, but here's the big things you need to look out for, ask questions about, and understand. There's a bunch of YouTube videos. I also have a YouTube channel if you just search Kaylee McMahon. And I've done interviews with my SEC attorney, with insurance brokers, with commercial brokers, every woman that touches any kind of commercial real estate, and then plus some others I've interviewed and have those interviews that you can learn at your leisure, you know, anything you want to know. So I just try to put a lot of information on the website, and I'm sure there's more I don't cover, but at least it's a good start. There's a couple of books I'd recommend if you're looking to do a passive investment. A good book is The Perfect Investment by Paul Moore. It's kind of a short one, but it, compares all the different investments that are available as a passive investor. And then whenever you're wanting to do active, Joe Fairless, I think it's Fairless, has a huge book. And it's called Best Ever Syndication Book, something like that. It's red and white and it's kind of big. But that walks you through like how the whole thing works, all the steps. It's a ton of information. But yeah, getting an education and being confident in what you're doing is the first step ever, I think, in investing in multifamily. Then also knowing where you financially are at right now. So for example, being accredited or being sophisticated, knowing, where you're at, that's also key to know. Maybe you don't quite yet qualify for these deals, but in the future you do. So what I'm going to do is drop if you're here and you can see the chat, I think I actually sent it to, or maybe afterwards I can follow up an attendees. There we go. I can send it again. I'll send this link that I have to the quiz that I put together that goes through a couple of questions, and what it will do is it will basically get you qualified as accredited or sophisticated if you meet the criteria, and then it will get you on our list for any future deals that we have coming up, so we can get on a phone call, create a relationship, however we want to create that relationship we can. And then also for any events like this that we're speaking at or involved in, you'll also get some notifications via email for those. And all of them primarily are pretty educational. So, if you want to attend those, that'll also help you on your road to learning multifamily. And then again, that will get you qualified for the definitions of accredited sophisticated as of now. But as of the 26th, last week, the Securities and Exchange Commission just released that they're going to be expanding the definition for accredited status. So now they're going to increase it. There's I think 7 new things they're adding to where it expands the amount of people that can invest as accredited individuals. So this quiz will change within the next 60 days or so when they finally put their final stamp on it. But that's good news. So even if you're not quite accredited yet, and if you'll go on my website and blog and you'll look at the newest article about the newest adjustments, and you just want to have a conversation on the phone or however that you may be borderline or right there, I'd be happy to have you, get any information on upcoming deals too.
Great. That's awesome. Kaylee, thanks again. You've really done a great job. I enjoyed the interview. I think the audience has well. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for attending. We'll follow up with the next webinar next week. Kaylee, thanks again. And Rebecca, we're good.
Thank you guys so much.